Hey guys, my name is Haley and today I will be filming my July wrap-up. So the first thing that I read when, I think it was actually the very first day of the month, was Jefferson Bethke's book, Jesus is Greater Than Religion. And the thing about this is I saw the video that this book is based on. It was like a viral YouTube video. He's actually a YouTuber. I'll link his channel down below. And I just loved everything he had to say about Christianity, and really anything that he said in this book. I love the way he explains things. This is probably one of my favorite Christian books I've ever read. I genuinely loved it that much. And I think it's a must read for any Christian anywhere, even if you're remotely interested in Christianity. Please check this out. And then apparently I started off the month with 2 Christian books and didn't realize it. But I also read I Kissed Dating Goodbye by Joshua Harris. Yes, Joshua Harris. This is a book about a man in his 20s, I believe, who decided to just not date for a while and focus on his relationship with God and his relationship with other people without having to worry about this stigma we have in our brains about dating people or going on dates or finding the person for us to get married and such, especially as a 20-something-year-old, which I am and he was as well. And I loved the points that he made in this. And I've actually heard this book referenced in a bunch of other Christian books. If you are struggling with not even just struggling to find the right person, I mean just struggling in general in understanding relationships that you have with people, I think this would be a very good read. The next book that I read was Invasion of the Tierling by Erika Johansson. If you have seen any of my more recent videos, you'll know that I loved the first book of this series called The Queen of the Tierling. And I really ended up enjoying this one. I think I gave it a 4.5 stars, but this one took me a while to get through. I think I was reading it for around 2 weeks, and I never take that long to read a book, and it's because so much of the subject matter in this was really hard to read. It was uncomfortable. There was a lot of just problems that the characters were dealing with that were just really uncomfortable to read about. And yeah, I struggled a little bit through certain parts of these, but I really loved the new characters that were introduced, like Lily. Lily was probably one of my favorite people in this story, and she's not even someone that existed in the first book. And I loved the way that this all tied up and wrapped up at the end, even though it left us with a million questions. But I'm loving this series, and I cannot wait to get my hands on that 3rd book so I can finally understand what the heck is going on in this world, in this series, and how the world came to be. And for Booktubeathon, I read War Brothers, The Light by DJ McHale, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, Fangirl, and Amy Rogers' Epic Detour were the books that I finished during Booktubeathon. And then I finished The Hobbit the day after the Booktubeathon ended because I didn't quite get to the last 100 pages of it. So as soon as that was over, I finished The Hobbit. And I really enjoyed it, and I'm really, really, really incredibly excited to get into The Lord of the Rings, because The Lord of the Rings was literally my childhood. I grew up watching the Lord of the Rings movies the same time I grew up watching the Harry Potter movies, but I had never read the books because I had heard they were so intimidating or something like that. As a kid, I was like, nope, I love those movies too much and I'm scared. So I'm hoping to get into The Fellowship of the Ring this month, actually. So hopefully that happens. As I said in my Booktubeathon wrap-up, I had read Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, but I own this copy that has both Alice and Through the Looking Glass in it, so I finished this book off and read Through the Looking Glass, and I enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. I didn't like it as much as Alice, but I did think it was just as weird and quirky as Alice was, so. Next, I just picked up a random contemporary because I'm trying to go through my contemporaries on my shelf. I read A Little Something Different by Sandy Hall. I have heard very, very mixed reviews on this. Actually, the majority of the reviews I've heard were bad. People didn't like it. They thought it was too confusing with all the different points of view. Because if you don't know, this is a book that follows, I think it's supposed to be 14. A lot of points of views. It's their professor, their best friends, a squirrel, a bench, like a bunch of really random points of views. I think one of them is his brother. And I thought that would take away from the story, but actually I think it made me enjoy it more. Like, I didn't love it. I gave it 3 stars, but it was cuter seeing it from other people's perspectives than it would have been being in the 2 main characters' heads, I think. There were times in this when I literally laughed out loud because some of the lines, like from the barista, I remember the Starbucks barista or the coffee shop barista, whatever she was, her point of view was probably my favorite because she had some of the funniest like inner monologue lines that I would literally start laughing out loud at. And then their teacher, Inga, I think her name was, the creative writing class teacher, was really funny too. And I enjoyed it. It was a fun little cute fluffy read, and I would recommend it if that's something that you were looking for. And then I bought at one of the thrift stores, I think it was a Goodwill, they had a bunch of books, like biographies and that sort of thing on the American Revolution. And as you guys know, with my obsession with Hamilton, I'm very interested in that time period now, especially after starting the Alexander Hamilton biography. So I saw this. It's called Can't You Make Them Behave, King George, which is a children's book that is about King George III, who is the king from Hamilton, if you don't know. And I thought it was so appropriate because Lynn's version of King George III in the show is like a really bratty sort of child, like crazy child mentality about how he wants to get his way, and like he's really mad at the Americas for trying to become their own country, and he's just so angry at them leaving. And I just thought this was so funny. I gave it 2 or 3 stars. It was cute. It paints King George as a kid who didn't get what he wants, which is basically what he is, or what he was as a person. So I thought it was funny. I read it in like 5 minutes, but I thought it was so cute, and I just thought I would include it in this wrap-up, even though it's a children's book. I went to a midnight release party of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, and I was so happy. I read this book. I think we got home at about 1 a.m. I went to my friend's house. I was spending the night. We sat and read this book from about 1 to 4 a.m. and we finished it around the same time, and I loved it. Like, I thought it was so much fun. It was so action-packed and a little bit confusing at times, but I wouldn't expect anything less from J.K. Rowling, or a story based on her world that is so intricate with all of its characters. And I honestly think my favorite character in this book was Scorpius. I loved him. I thought he was so dorky and so cute and so funny, and he was probably my favorite character in this, I'm not gonna lie. And there's a spine, and it's just beautiful. Ooh. I am honestly so excited. Funny story about this, I don't have them with me, but my mother had actually pre-ordered 2 copies of this for me and my friend that went to the midnight premiere, but we didn't have a way of proving that we had pre-ordered it, because I guess you had to pre-order it in the store at Books A Million in order to get the copy at midnight, and there was no way that I was not about to buy this at midnight, especially since we were at the party. So, long story short, me and my friend Megan actually both bought the book at midnight. We finished it at 4 in the morning. It was great. And then yesterday, 2 copies that were pre-ordered that we were having issues with showed up in my house. So, in other words, I have 3 copies right now. And I just looked at them on my desk the other day. I had all 3 of them just sitting there, and I was like, oh my god, why is this so funny? Because I don't know why, I just think it's hilarious. And I don't know what I'm going to do with the other 2 copies yet. I think I'm going to give at least one of them to another friend of ours who wasn't feeling well and was supposed to go to the midnight release with us. But as for the other one, I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I might just keep it because I loved this book, and I loved the story, and I loved the characters, and I just love Harry Potter. And I might actually end up doing a full separate review on this because I have a lot to say, and that's all I'm going to say right now. those are the rest of the books that I read in July, and I will leave my Booktubeathon wrap-up link down below so you can see my thoughts on the books I read for that. And thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys next time.